condominium is located, for better or for worse, in a part of LA, Pacific Palisades, that they've been filming at quite a bit at Sunset and Via de la Paz. She lives in a condominium, a three-story condominium. And, we found out early in the day yesterday that she might possibly be in the evacuation zone. And since she's in a walker, her caretaker and she made the wise move to get going while she could still use an elevator before they cut the power. So they headed out over to stay with my brother. It took a very long time to get there. And we watched pretty much in horror yesterday as film crews were actually catching my mom's, filming my mom's building burst into flames and just get destroyed before our eyes.
But yeah, you knew she was out at that stage?
We did know that she was out, so like that's the very important thing is that she was out. Of course, she had no idea that it was going to be the destructive flame that it ended up being, and she got out, I think, with she told me two shirts, two pairs of pants, and some sort of sweater vest, and that's about it.
And
So that's
yeah, we just showed a
50
condom.
years of her life there.
Sorry.
Oh, I said that she's lived there for 50 years, so 50 years of her life just gone.
Yeah, and we've seen images of the presumably one of the main roads out of the Palisades just blocked with cars, and it was ended up being an utter traffic jam, and people getting out and having to walk. Yeah, she, as far as you know, she got out early enough to avoid that.
Well, that was a different part of the Palisades. That's the Highlands. That's where the fire started.
Yeah.
But then I think maybe the firefighters weren't aware how quickly it was going to spread. The embers just leaped over the canyons and spread much closer to her. And I think most of the firefighters were still up in that area. So my mom did not experience any of that kind of stuff, but there was a lot of traffic on the road to get out of town.
And so you grew up in the Palisades. Were you in that higher area that you just described then, or tell us the part of the Palisades you grew up in?
More, well, they have like the Highlands, which is a place that was not even a place when we first moved
Right.
in there. The place that was more recently developed. Where my mom lived is what they called the village, so it's like the place where a lot of folks live, where there's shops and stuff like that. She was very close to the shopping centers. So like the main part of town, that was where she lived. And it's just gone. It's from all the photos that I can see, it's just cinders. I don't know, kind of reminiscent. We have relatives that live in Australia, which is one of the reasons I'm doing this interview. And
Yeah.
I remember watching in horror 4 or 5 years ago when you guys had those massive fires in Australia, and it seemed like people were pretty helpless and powerless, and that's kind of how I felt watching that blaze burning because there were no firefighters that could reach it. The winds were extraordinary.
Yeah, and yeah, you know, no doubt have experienced those Santa Ana winds there in Los when you've been in LA.
Sure, when I was a kid,
Yeah.
we loved them as a kid. I don't really love them so much anymore.
Yeah. And was it just kind of unbelievable for you watching this unfold in terms of the scale of it?
I mean, the scale of it is, frankly, it's still unfolding. I can turn on the news right now and watch the live feed, and they still haven't contained the fire at all. So I don't know if it's because of how big it is, or the lack of firefighters, or just the wind still, but it is unbelievable. We've had fire warnings before, but nothing could match the scale of this.
And had you, yeah, as I understand it, you grew up in LA. Had you been through fires there before?
As a kid, there was maybe one, and then when I was growing up as a teenager, I remember I think I went off to university, and when I came back, there had been a fire, but that was just a lot farther away and more remote. Not in town like this, not taking down leveling an entire city. No,
Yeah.
like it's not a scale I've ever seen before.
Yeah, and what about that along the Pacific Coast Highway? I think it's called. Those images. Have you seen those images of Malibu?
Yeah, I sure have. And Malibu already suffered a big fire just a year ago, so yeah, it's just extraordinary that it could hop the fire. I mean, it could hop the highway. I'm sorry, those people, everyone's been texting me, that it was able to hop the highway, and just, they showed photos of like the embers. When the embers fly into the air, they just go off, several miles sometimes, and so I think it's just been impossible to keep track of where the fire's going.
Okay, Lynn Kameny, I'm thankful that your mum is safe, and thanks for talking to us
Certainly am
from the
too.
US.
Oh, thank you so much. I hope you all stay safe too.